Hi, I'm Lucy from Sew Essential, and today we're taking a closer look at the Husqvarna Viking Designer Ruby 90, just one of a wide range of sewing and embroidery machines, overlockers and cover stitch machines available to buy on our site sewessential.co.uk. At Sew Essential, we pride ourselves on using our expert knowledge to help you find the perfect machine for you, and that's why we've made this video, but we're also always here to support you by phone or email too. The Husqvarna Viking Designer Ruby 90 is a magnificent sewing and embroidery machine that makes every project an utter joy. There are just too many features to pack into one video, so today I'm going to demonstrate some of those headline features, and then if you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to contact us. It comes with over 800 built-in stitches, 650 built-in embroidery designs, and the ability to design your own appliques. It's fully compatible with the live Creativate platform, which gives you the option to pay a monthly subscription and access up to 9,500 embroidery designs at the last count, because it's always changing, plus an extensive range of projects and tutorials. It means you never run out of ideas or inspiration or opportunities to learn and develop your skills. And when you purchase the machine from us, you get access to the basic plan, which gives you limited access to the platform free of charge. It has a whopping 310 millimeters or 12 inches to the right of the needle, so you never run out of space, even on the biggest of projects. It has a 10-inch colour touchscreen, which works just like your iPad or smartphone. You can swipe, pinch and spread to do things like move designs, rotate them, mirror them, zoom in on them, group them and ungroup them with ease. It's just so intuitive. And whilst we're on the subject of size, the biggest of the 3 hoops you receive with the machine when you purchase it from us measures 360 by 260 millimeters. And you have the opportunity to purchase additional hoops to go with the machine up to 360 by 350 millimeters. You can embroider even the biggest of designs effortlessly and with minimal rehooping. There are animated sewing and embroidery tutorials, and the full instruction manual is built into the machine, making it easy to maximise your use of all these wonderful features and master a wide range of sewing and embroidery techniques. It's like having a machine expert or sewing teacher sat next to you at all times. It has Wi-Fi access, so you can do things like sit and browse designs on your iPad or smartphone from the comfort of your living room, then wirelessly send the designs to the machine ready for your next sewing session. You can send designs from device to device for browsing or editing purposes, and you can even set up an alert on the app on your mobile phone, so the machine sends you a message to tell you when it's time to change the thread colour. It has a deluxe stitch system and an exclusive sensor system to ensure perfect thread feeding, particularly great if you like working with things like metallic threads, but it also senses the thickness of the fabric and adjusts itself accordingly for an even feed on all fabric types. Plus, it even has an electronic needle threader. Some of the standout and exclusive embroidery features I'll show you in the video include design positioning, which allows you to join designs with pinpoint accuracy and precision, made easy by the 4-step process built into the machine. I'll show you design shaping, where you can create endless new unique designs by placing embroidery designs on a shape of your choice to create truly unique and utterly professional looking projects. You can use large spools of thread and larger bobbins, so there's less frequent thread changes, And on the embroidery side, you get all the options you would expect around colour sorting and jump stitch options so that you can make your stitch outs quicker and more efficient. As you would expect from a machine of this calibre, you receive a wide range of feet and accessories with the machine when you purchase it from us, including the embroidery arm, a straight stitch plate, an interchangeable dual feed foot, the sensor cue foot and the 3 embroidery hoops. The sorts of projects the Ruby 90 allows you to create are phenomenal. The precision and accuracy is off the charts and the creative opportunities are honestly endless. Dressmaking and sewing projects are a walk in the park and you can create the most exquisite and elaborate quilts and embroidered projects. Things that you thought too difficult or not possible in the past become an exciting idea you can't wait to make a reality. I'll pop a link in the corner of the screen where you can take a closer look at the machine on our website and purchase it there. Later in the video we'll take a look at what comes in the box, but now let's get started at looking what this incredible machine can do for you. As you would expect, the options you've got for thread stands and bobbin winding on the Husqvarna Viking Designer Ruby 90 are exceptional. To wind the bobbin, we start by extending the telescopic thread guide, and then we've got 2 spool pins on the machine, and I'm just going to put those in the vertical position. You get discs with the machine that you can slide over the spool pins, and you've got options here to use really large reels of thread. But the other major advantage is, of course, you can wind your bobbin without the need to unthread the machine. You can also wind the bobbin through the needle as well. So lots and lots of options there so that nothing gets in your way when you're working on your projects and you just want to keep sewing. So I'm going to place a reel of thread on the spool pin. We bring the thread up through the telescopic thread guide at the top, through the metal guide here, and then we bring it around the guide here, and then you just slip it through that tension disc and around the metal guide on the side of the machine. To continue winding the bobbin, we come to the side of the machine, check the thread's still in the guide at the top here, and then we're going to place our bobbin on the bobbin winder here. It will only slot on in one direction. The bobbins are narrower at the top than the bottom, but there is an H on the top so that you always know which way round to put them. And I'm just going to pass the thread through the hole on the top of the bobbin, slot it onto the winder, and then we want to push this lever up. And now the machine knows that we want to wind the bobbin. So I've got the bobbin winding icon on the screen. I've got a sliding speed scale so I can increase or decrease the speed. I usually like to have that about midway, and then I'm just going to press play. Once I've got a few rotations on, I'm going to stop that, and I'm just going to snip that excess thread so that's out of the way, and then we can continue to wind. To thread the needle, we place the thread on the spool pin and go up and through the telescopic guide at the top, and then we're going to pass the thread from front towards the back under this metal guide here, like so. Bring it around the casing at the top, and then bring it down the left hand side through the tension discs. And it's worth mentioning here that the Ruby has the deluxe sensor system, and part of that system is a sophisticated, more advanced tension system. So you have the traditional tension discs for the thread to go through, but when the deluxe system's being used, which the machine does for you, it's a set of 3 rollers, and it rolls the thread through, and it allows the thread to be portioned accurately depending on the thickness of the fabric you're working with, and it also will adjust the tension so that it suits your project perfectly as you sew. The roller system's also preferable for people who like using metallic threads and speciality threads, because it's a lot gentler on that thread as it feeds through, rather than just being pulled through the tension discs. So we'll bring the thread down to the bottom, across, back up to the top, through the take-up lever, and then down the front of the machine. Now we're going to use my favourite part of the threading system on the Designer Ruby 90, the automatic needle threader. And you might be thinking, well, I've seen one of those before, I've used one of those before, it's not that exciting. But when you see this needle threader in action, you will understand it is truly automatic. But before we do that, I'm going to reduce the lighting. We've got beautifully bright LED lighting on the Designer Ruby 90, which is fantastic for you. It lights up your work area beautifully and just gives you great visibility. However, you might have different conditions on different days. You might be working in a different room. You might want to reduce the light just because of how you're feeling that day perhaps. And to do that, you've got control by simply using buttons on the front of the machine here. So for the purposes of the video, I need to bring that light down. So I'm just going to reduce it using this button here. And you can see I've got a great deal of control over how bright or how dim I want those lights to be. And then to increase them again, you simply press the button on the right hand side. But now let's take a look at this fantastic needle threader. So I'm just going to bring the thread behind the guide on the needle bar like you would on any sewing machine. Bring it up through the metal notch here, slide it through the groove there, and then bring it around the thread cutter and just snip off the excess. And then normally you would have to use a manual lever and pull a lever down to thread the needle, but on the Ruby we simply press a button. Threading a needle has never been quicker or easier. Now let's take a look at that incredible large colour touchscreen which measures just over 10 inches and works in the same way as your iPad. It's so intuitive, so easy to use, and you will not believe the level of detail and the expertise and support that are built into this machine for you. And then that's also complemented by the online resources available through what was known as MySewNet but is now known as Creativate. It really makes your sewing effortless, enjoyable. It will help you to stretch your skills, learn new techniques. It's just wonderful. So this is the sewing advisor here. And the first thing we can notice is that there's options for sewing, quilting, embroidery and the knowledge centre. And we'll have a look at these various different options. But let's start by taking a look at the sewing menu. So here we can scroll across the screen and select the fabric type that we want to sew with. And then down here you can see we've got different techniques and we've got different options appearing here which we can select, and it will support us and show us how to perform those different sewing techniques. So I'm going to go to the option for collars here, and you can see that we've got a shirt collar with a stand or a rolled collar. I'm going to go for the shirt collar with the stand. And I'm currently in the full menu mode here, but we can also go to the menu at the bottom of the screen. We can have it at the top, at the left, or at the right. So you can really personalise it, put it where you want it so that it suits you. The machine is also setting itself up accordingly for the fabric we've selected, which will work with that deluxe stitch system again to make sure that it's portioning the thread appropriately for the fabric we've chosen, applying the right sort of presser foot pressure. It's telling me which needle to use and it's telling me which stitch has been selected. But let's just go to the full screen on these instructions so that you can see how in-depth they are and how much information they give you. You've got the instructions in written format here, and you can scroll through the various steps, but you'll also notice that some of the steps have a video icon on them, and this is where the magic really comes in. If I press that, I've got the option here to watch the full video of how to perform the sewing steps. So it shows me exactly where to stitch, which feet to use, where to clip the fabric, and it will do this for various different steps in the process. It even shows you where to apply interfacing in some of the steps. It really does show you in a great level of detail and very, very clearly through these animated videos exactly what to do. And you might be thinking, well, I'm a very experienced sewer, I know how to do this, but my argument would always be there's lots of options here for you to, and opportunities here for you to maybe pick up new tips, learn different ways of doing things. But also, if you're like me, I'm a very experienced sewer and dressmaker, but if I haven't sewn a collar with a stand for 6 months, 12 months perhaps, I often need a little reminder. I can't quite remember exactly how to do it. And that usually means turning to my phone or my iPad to search, and very often my own YouTube videos to remind myself how to do something. But when you've got this sewing advisor built into your machine, you haven't got to waste time doing that. You haven't got to waste time scrolling through different videos, finding the best one. You've got that built into your machine there at your fingertips as a reminder. I mean, it even shows you where to press the fabric. It's, you know, way more in depth than the instructions you'll get on a sewing pattern very often, and you can use it to compare with those as well if they're not particularly clear and you just want a bit of extra help. It is absolutely fantastic. Then if we take a look at the quilting option, you can see we've got lots and lots of different techniques in here again, all of them with step-by-step instructions, many of them with those lovely videos, so that you can try out lots of different techniques and build your skills. The same again in the embroidery menu, and some lovely advanced features in here, things like yarn embellished embroidery, cutwork embroidery, freestanding embroidery, so that you've got the confidence to try those different things. You know what materials and accessories you need to use, and you can follow those tutorials step by step. And then finally, we've got the Knowledge Centre. We've got the quick start guide, which shows us everything we need to know for setting up the machine. If you're new to embroidery, it will literally show you how to hoop your fabric, how to attach the embroidery unit to the machine. Everything you need to know is there. You've got guides on which needles to use under which circumstances. You've got guides on which stabilisers to use and which fabrics they might be suitable to or for, how to use them. So that's incredibly helpful too. You've got your step-by-step workbooks where you can try lots of different things and get advice and tutorials on things like design positioning, so that you can use that unique design positioning feature of this Husqvarna machine to get your designs to match up perfectly. And we'll look at that more later in the video. Another one of my favourites, the design shaping options that you've got, where you can take smaller embroidery designs and apply them to a shape to create your own unique design for your projects. You've got sewing instructions, which are projects actually built into the machine for you to try. And then you can add to all of this through your Creativate subscription. You can wirelessly import projects and designs from Creativate into your machine to build up all those different projects and all the different things you'd like to work on. And then you've also got accessory guides as well, which are incredibly useful if you're trying out a new technique and you want to know more about how to use a ruler foot, for example. There's a step-by-step tutorial there with videos again showing you exactly how to go about it. The other information that's built into the machine, which is incredibly useful, is the instruction manual. So if we press the icon, which is a book with a magnifying glass at the bottom there, that takes us through to the entire instruction manual, which is available on the machine, and it's also kept completely up to date thanks to the updates. You can search the manual by using the magnifying glass. So if we want to find out something about bobbins, we want to know how to insert the bobbin, perhaps, we can just search on bobbin and it will bring up all the different options in the instruction manual related to bobbins, and we can just select the one that we're interested in there. We've also got everything organised A to Z as well, so you can go into one of those options and scroll those and find what you're looking for. And then you've also got your typical sort of contents page as well, organised by chapters, and then you can go into those. So it's just so handy having all of that information at the touch of your fingers on the machine. You don't need to be rifling through a paper instruction manual. It is all here for you, and it's kept completely up to date. Now let's take a look at what happens when we actually start to sew. We're in the sewing menu and we're going to go to Start New, and this is the information we're presented with on the screen here. We can also scroll between our sewing screen and our embroidery screen just up at the top right there as well, but let's go back to sewing. And you'll see that we've got that information we mentioned earlier about the fabric we've selected, the needle, the stitch. Down here we've got our options to flip and mirror our stitches. We've got our stitch width options, stitch length. We've got our thread tension. And then if you notice there's a toggle button there, if we touch that, we've also got instant access to our presser foot pressure. So like we said, the deluxe stitch system will select those automatically for us, but we have got the option to override those things there as well. If we look at the stitch menu, we can see that it's organised into subcategories from A to T. So we can scroll our way along those to select the different stitches. If you're not sure what one of the different stitches is for, you can touch the question mark, hit the stitch, and it will give you suggestions of how to use that stitch, or if it's a utility stitch, what that stitch is used for. And that goes for all of these functions as well. If ever you can't remember what something's for, just touch the question mark, touch the function, and it will remind you. Then if we want to look at these stitches more closely, let's choose one of our lovely decorative stitch menus. And if we want to see those in more detail, we can just touch that button there, long press it, and the stitch menu will be displayed on the screen like so, as a full screen. But then the best thing is we can go even further with this, and we can pinch zoom right in on those designs. So if you've got poor eyesight, or you just want to understand how a stitch is going to be formed, if you want that level of detail, you've got that right there for you. And then you can zoom back down to the standard size. You've also got those subcategory menus here again along the bottom, and again you can use that question mark to understand more information about any of those stitches. Now there are over 800 stitches built into the Ruby 90, so we're not going to be able to go through all of them, but what I thought it would be nice to look at is just how intelligent the machine can be when we're doing things like programming stitches. So if we touch that button there, we're taken through to the program screen, and this allows us to program combinations of stitches into the machine. And I'm going to go into the Omnimotion Stitches menu, which is one of my absolute favourites. These stitches are designed to be lovely and wide, and they take full advantage of the fact the machine can sew in multiple directions. But if we want to create a sequence between stitch number 1 and 2 in this menu, and then I want to continue that, but I want to flip the stitch in the other direction, what you'll notice here is that the machine knows to join that seamlessly and without a big ugly jump stitch, which is just fantastic. It's so intelligent and clever that it knows to do that, and there isn't going to be a jump stitch there. That won't work with all of the different stitches, but certain stitches it will work, and it's just wonderful for when you're doing things like sashing, which is sewing long strips of fabric used to join blocks together in quilting. It just gives you so much more of a seamless finish, a professional finish, and just elevates those projects to a much more professional level. So let's stitch out that lovely program of Omnimotion stitches now. I'm going to use my S foot, which comes with the machine, and I love the fact as well with these machines you just put your foot down on the foot control and sew. And you can see there we've got that beautiful design, lovely and balanced, perfect for doing things like sashing for your quilting or just using as borders on different projects. No ugly jump stitches, just beautiful and flowing, and just looks so professional and so easy to achieve and make truly unique to fit your project. One of the other stitch menus I absolutely love are the dimensional stitches, which are stitches that are designed to be sewn with sequins or embellishments, 3D effects onto your fabric. So we can see here that it gives us the information that that's a pop-up stitch, and you can use pop-up fabric to create those sorts of 3D effects. And again, there'll be further information in there about those stitches and how to sew them. And then the other thing it's worth mentioning is that for your decorative stitches, you also have the option to sew these in embroidery mode in the hoop. So this is great if you want to create a sampler, or if you want to sew those stitches in a straight line. You haven't got to control the fabric. You can do it in embroidery mode while the fabric is hooped, and you know that they are going to be sewn out absolutely perfectly with true precision and accuracy. Let's take a look now at one of the dimensional stitches. So I'm going for a pop-up stitch horizontal look, and I've got the sewing advisor on the left hand side of the screen telling me exactly how to do this technique, and then I've got my stitch menu visible on the right hand side of my screen. I'm going to go ahead and start stitching now. And the machine automatically stops for me in the right place. I've got a piece of fabric here, contrasting fabric. I cut a square of it and I've folded that twice. And then I want to position that, and this is all in the instructions, I want to position that from the right hand side next to the needle. And to help me do that, I like to just raise the presser foot so I can get a really good visibility. And I just want to position the point of the fabric next to the needle like so. And once I've got that in position, I can just lower the foot, and the machine now will stitch a few stitches to secure it for me. And then once I've done that, I need to turn the fabric counterclockwise and put my foot down again. And then it stops again. I rotate the fabric again and continue to stitch. And I might not have the angle exactly right on this because I'm sitting away from the machine, but obviously if you haven't got a camera in front of you, you can position things more accurately. But let's go ahead and stitch that. And actually, I think I've done quite a good job there. I didn't hit my stop button in time to stop once that pattern was completed, but I've done quite a good job there of lining everything up. And then this piece of fabric is rather large, but I find that actually doing it with a piece of fabric that is larger than what you want is easier, and then you can trim it down to the size you require for your given project. But you can see there what a lovely effect that creates, and you can just imagine if we were to continue that pattern down the fabric, let's just trim off that stray thread there. If we were to continue that pattern down the fabric and add those little contrasting squares of fabric, what a lovely additional dimension that adds to your sewing projects. Now, if you're working on a stitch and you've customised it, or an embroidery and you've customised it in any way, and you've messed around with those settings, but you want to be able to call it a day, switch the machine off and come back to it later, you've got the option for a smart save down here. If you press that button and press the green tick, it will perform a smart save, and it will save all of the settings, all of the things that you've adjusted, so that next time you come back to the machine, it will automatically remember those settings and you can pick up where you left off. Another super intelligent feature of the Ruby 90 is the stitch balance correction. So if you select a decorative stitch and you stitch it out, and for whatever reason it's not quite how you want it to be, it's not balanced the way you want it to be, you come to the stitch balance button here, and rather than on most machines you have to fine tune that and you'd have to test it and incrementally increase it, on the Ruby 90 you make the stitch in the preview look like the stitch that you're sewing. So if it's too stretched out, for example, you just hit that button until the preview represents what's being stitched out. You hit the green tick and the machine will automatically balance that stitch and correct it for you. Now, when it comes to free motion embroidery on the Ruby 90, you've got 3 options. So if we just hit the icon here for free motion embroidery, those options are displayed. For all of them, the feed dogs will automatically be dropped by the machine. You don't have to think about that. It does recommend using a straight stitch plate as well, but there are 3 different feet that you can use. You've got your free motion ruler foot and your free motion floating foot, both of which come with the machine. The free motion spring action sensor Q foot is available to purchase separately from us, so you can purchase the machine from us, but you can also purchase all the feet and accessories that you might want to, although you get a huge range of feet and accessories included with a machine like this. But the advantage of the free motion sensor Q foot is that you don't have to worry about the presser foot pressure. With the other feet, you need to set it, with the other 2 feet, you need to set it so that you don't get drag or pulling up when you're moving your fabric around, particularly over seams. However, the sensor Q foot means you don't have to worry about that. So that is recommended for free motion sewing, except for when you're doing specific techniques or you're using accessories that don't support that particular foot. Now let's convert the machine from sewing to embroidery mode. And again, there is a full tutorial in the Knowledge Centre showing you exactly how to do this, but it is very, very easy. The first thing we're going to do is remove the accessory tray, which just slides off. And then we're going to replace it with the embroidery unit. You get the embroidery unit included with the machine when you purchase it from us. You can just follow the links below to view the machine and purchase it on our website, but the embroidery unit comes included. And you just slide this into position. When you first receive the embroidery unit, it will have some red clips underneath it just to protect it during transit. Just remove those before you attach the embroidery unit, but we are now set up and ready to complete the next steps. Now we need to remove our standard presser foot ankle and replace it with the sensor Q ankle or foot, which comes included with the machine when you purchase it from us and is what we use to do our embroidery. And we're going to use the universal tool for this. I absolutely love this tool. It's magnetic, so when you unscrew that screw, it will actually hold the screw for you, so you're not going to lose it, which is an easy thing to happen normally. So I'm just going to turn that so that I can remove the standard presser foot ankle. Just keep going till the screw comes all the way out. And you can see there that the magnetic tool is holding that screw in place for me, ready for me to attach the sensor Q foot. And then I'm just going to drop the needle by turning the hand wheel, because that will just move that screw down there so that it's easier for me to attach the sensor Q foot. And then I just use the tool to tighten the screw back up And with all these things, I always say to people, you know, you want it to be nice and snug, you want it to be secure, but you don't need to over tighten these things. You know, don't be tempted to over tighten. Just make sure it's nice and snug like so. And the centre Q foot's in position and ready now for us to start sewing our embroidery. The next step is hooping the fabric, and you get 3 hoops included with the Ruby 90 when you purchase it from us. This is the middle-sized hoop, which is still incredibly large. It's 260mm by 200. But you also get a hoop which measures 360mm by 260 included with the machine, and then you get a smaller one as well. But you can actually purchase separately a hoop that measures 360 by 350mm, and it's a massive advantage being able to use these large hoops because you can embroider bigger designs more easily. The need to re-hoop the fabric is less frequent. It just makes life a lot easier and means you've got a much wider range of designs that you can work with very easily. So to hoop the fabric, we just want to remove the inner parts of the hoop, and it's actually a good idea to leave the quick release lever closed when you're hooping your fabric, and then just use your screw to tighten things. It will just prevent as much puckering in the corner there. So we're going to place our stabiliser on top like so. There are different methods for doing this as well. There is an option in the machine for you to just hoop your stabiliser, and then you can place your fabric on top and baste that into position, and that just saves a little bit on fabric and means you can straighten things up nicely. But I'm just going to use the traditional method now. So we just want the stabiliser on top of the bottom part of the hoop, and then we'll place our fabric on top of that. And then we want the Husqvarna logo the right way up at the top, and we're just going to slot that into position. And when you're hooping your fabric, you don't want it to be drum tight. You want it to be nice and secure, and you want your fabric to be smooth, but you don't want it to be drum tight. So just make sure that it's secured, it's snug, but it's not overly tight. And then if you need to, you can tighten the screw in the bottom right corner. And if we just turn the hoop over, you'll see what I'm referring to with regards to the clip. So it's just a little tip really to leave that closed when you hoop it, and you can see we've got no puckering in the corner there, and then you can just use that as a quick release lever. So yeah, just a bit of a tip there. But also the other thing I want to mention is that you can purchase metal hoops to use with this machine as well, which use magnets to secure the fabric. So you've got lots and lots of options in terms of hoop size, and also types of hoop, and how to secure your fabric and your stabiliser so that you find your preference and get great results, whatever that preference is. So let's have a look now at how we access those beautiful designs that are built into the machine on the Ruby 90. But you also obviously can import designs using Creativate and the Wi-Fi, USB sticks. You've got lots and lots of different options, but we're going to just take one of the designs built into the machine. So we're in the Sewing Advisor, we're on the basic embroidery option. If we go to the bottom right hand of the screen and press Start New, that will take us through to this menu. We've got our stitch options here, our embroidery design menu. If we want to make that full screen, we can just hold down that button and it will make it go full screen for us, and that just makes it a bit easier if you've got a lot of designs in one of the menus to scroll through, the same as on the sewing side. And then we can also scroll through the menus at the bottom there, but I'm going to minimize that again now. And then I spotted a lovely yellow butterfly. If I touch it, it shows me the design size, how many different colours are used, the name of the design and number, and also how many stitches there are to complete that design. Then to bring it onto the hoop, I just hold it down and we're now on the hoop, and it will automatically bring it into the smallest sized hoop. So if we're using a bigger hoop like I am, you might want to stitch out multiple designs, you might want to use a bigger hoop, then you just touch that button there and you've got all your different hoop options come up here. So I'm just going to choose the 260 by 200, which is the hoop that I will be using. Once the design's in the hoop, we've got lots and lots of really intuitive ways to edit and change that embroidery design. So to start making edits, if you've lost the box around the design, just tap the design and that will enable you to start using all these different options. The first one is our positioning icon. So if we look at the 4 here, we've got the positioning icon, and when I touch the design, I am able to drag that around the screen. You notice that if I drag it outside of the hoop, there'll be a red line appearing around the edge of the hoop to tell me that that's not within the hoop. But I can drag it around like so. I can zoom in on it as well, so I can have a really close look at the stitches. And then if I want to move it incrementally, I can use the arrow buttons here to move it up, down, left or right, and then I can just zoom back out. So it really is like using your iPad or your smartphone. It's so intuitive and easy to do, and I can just move it around like so within the hoop when I'm in the positioning icon. And you'll see these numbers here. If I move the butterfly, you can see those numbers changing, and there's also numbers that have appeared at the top of the screen and they're changing, and that is telling me how far left or right or up or down the design is from the center of the hoop. If we select the next icon along, this is my design rotation option. So I've got lots of different ways that I can choose to rotate the design. I can touch this box here and I can type in the number of degrees I would like to rotate the design. So I've rotated it 45 degrees there. I've also got the option with the circle here to touch the middle and it will rotate the design 90 degrees for me. The other option I've got is just to touch that spot there and I can rotate it freely with my finger on the screen. And then, if I want to fine tune that slightly, just nudge it along 1 degree at a time using the arrows on the circle button there. The next option we've got is to scale the design. So if we choose the next icon along there, this gives us the opportunity to scale the design, which keeps the stitch count the same. So if you resize a design, which obviously you can do as well, that will change the stitch count. And you can't go too big because you will end up with a patchy stitch out, or it's possible that you'll end up with a patchy stitch out. Scaling the design means that the stitch count will stay the same and the machine will automatically restrict you so that you don't go too big. You're restricted to about 20% either way usually, and it just means that you won't be able to scale that design to a point that the stitch out is going to be patchy. So I can just start to again use the arrows here to scale the design however I'd like to, and it will keep that stitch count the same. I've got the option there to type in how I want it to be scaled, so I can go back to 100 if I want to, but the machine will keep the stitch count the same and it will make sure that you don't go so big that you're going to distort the stitch out. And then the next option along is the panning option. So if we touch that and we touch anywhere on the embroidery frame, but we don't touch the design itself, we can move things around like so. We can also do that when we haven't selected the panning option. As long as we're touching anywhere else in the embroidery area and not the design itself, we can do that. And this is useful if you've really zoomed in on something because you're taking a closer look at how the stitches are going to be formed, or you're just wanting to look at things a bit more closely. You can just pan to see where things are in relation to the edge of the hoop, for example. And we can also use the zoom there to help us with that as well. So all of it is incredibly intuitive. You know, on more rudimentary embroidery machines, you usually will get much more limited ways to move designs and position them, whereas on this machine you've got a multitude of different ways. You can pick and choose how you want to do it. Do you want to do it on the screen? Do you want to do it incrementally? And you can flip between all of those different options. Now the other thing we have is a smart toolbox. So I'm just going to bring our design back down to a smaller size, and then if I touch the center of it and hold, I get multiple options here. The first one is duplicating the design. So if I touch that, I've now got 2 butterflies on the screen. And then if I want to select the other one, I can move that like so. If I decide, oh, actually I don't want to, I can delete one of them. And then I've also got the option in that smart toolbox to move the design side to side. And then I've also got the option to flip it vertically as well. So you've just got those quick access options there. If you hold and touch the design, once the box is around the design, you've got the option to do those things there. Now I want to show you some of the brilliant options you've got for working with multiple designs at the same time. So let's duplicate our beautiful butterfly and let's give ourselves 3 butterflies to work with. We can select them all individually, and as long as we've got the box around the design, we can move those around the hoop. We can also zoom out or zoom in if we want a different view, so we can see how things are positioned. And we can see here that actually those designs, some of them are going outside the hoop because we've got the red lines, so we can just touch the individual designs, bring them inside the hoop, and we can see that we've got them all in there now. Now sometimes when you are zoomed in on something and you're playing around with designs and editing them, you might end up with a couple of your designs off outside the sort of hoop area. You might be looking at things in a more zoomed in way, but you know that there are extra designs. You can see that they're outside the hoop and you're not quite sure where they've gone. If that's the case, you can just press the move to hoop button and that will bring everything back inside the hoop, and it will bring it in closest to the closest side or corner to where it was positioned once it was outside the hoop. The other option you've got, if you want to know how many designs you've got and that you're working with and you've sort of lost track and they've gone outside of the hoop, is that you can press the layers button, and there you will see thumbnails of all the different designs you're working with. So we can see there that we are working with 3 different butterflies, and again we can press that move to hoop button and bring them all back in. Once we've got them all back in the hoop, we can also use the options in the layers to group the designs together and to make changes to multiple designs or all of the designs. So if we wanted to, I'm going to just go ahead and position them in some sort of formation. So you just always touch the design and that will move the design, and you get lines on the screen to show you how things are in relation to one another, a little bit like Photoshop. If anybody's ever used them, it will show you so that you can line things up with the other designs on the screen. So if we wanted to space them accurately, for example, we can do that, and we know that they are proportionally sort of spaced from one another there now. Now, if we wanted to then do something to all 3 of the designs so they're the same, if we think, well, actually I'd quite like to scale those 3 designs by the same amount to make them bigger so that they fill the hoop better but they've still got that same spacing, we've got the option to make them a group and select all of the designs, or we've also got the option to select multiple designs, which is the option at the top. So I can then deselect 1 or 2 of the butterflies. So if I use the multi-select option, I can select just 2 of the designs, or I can use the select all option to select all 3 designs. And then I might think, right, what I want to do with all 3 designs, I just want to move them, center them, and then actually I want to scale them so that they all increase by the same sort of proportion and they're scaled the same. So I can get that to the point that I think, well, that's sort of as big as they can go in that formation. And then I might want to rotate them as well. And, you know, if you were trying to scale these individually and rotate them individually, you're never going to get it exactly the same. It's really, really difficult. But when you've got this option to do multiple things at the same time, it just makes life a lot easier. And we can see now that doing that and changing the rotation of the design means that they are now protruding the edge of the frame. So all we need to do then is just scale, and you can see how easy it is to achieve what you want to achieve. You know, you know you've got them in that formation, you can center them, still slightly outside the hoop on that side. So let's just scale again and scale a little bit more. You've just got to make sure you touch those squares. And we've got them all scaled and rotated. I might want to just rotate them a little bit further, but you know that they're in a perfect formation, then they're evenly spaced, they're scaled to the same size, they're all rotated to the same angle, and you've got your designs there how you want them. And then if you decide that actually I'm not happy with that spacing, you've got the option again to go back to your multi-select tool. It's selecting 2 of those together. So actually if I just want to select that one, I might think, oh, actually I want to bring that down there. You've got the option to go back and move them individually as well, but you know, you can position them then how you want to, but at least you know that they're all scaled the same and they're all angled the same as well, rotated the same. And then once you're happy with how you've placed them within that hoop, you can go ahead and stitch it out. We're nearly at the point of stitching the design out now, but there are some other key edits that you can make. If we go to the artist palette, for example, you get a complete list of all the different colours that are going to be stitched out in those designs. If we touch this icon, we can select different colours in the designs that we want to look at and we want to alter. We can select all of the colours in the designs. But one of the things that I think is particularly useful, you might look at it and think, oh, I'm not keen on that yellow. I think I would like to see what it would look like if I made that yellow a paler yellow. You can select that particular colour and then you can press this button here and all of the parts of the designs that are that colour will be selected. And with any of these options, you can then touch that colour wheel and you can choose how you want to change that colour. So you can make it paler, you can change it to a completely different colour. And then if you press the green tick, you will be able to see what that will look like. And then if I deselect, we can see what those designs will look like now if I choose a paler lemony colour to stitch them out. So we've looked at the colours of the actual designs and visualising those. You have also got an option to look at the background colour that you're going to be using with the designs as well, so you can visualise that. And to do that, we press the grid button. If you press it once, it gives you a grid on the screen, which is useful for that design placement and positioning that we were looking at earlier. You've got reference points there on the screen to help you position things and line things up. If we hold that button down, you've also got the option to change the spacing of those grid squares. So you can go for 1/4 inch, 3/8 of an inch, 1/2 an inch or an inch. You've got the measurements in millimetres as well, and you can adjust them with the plus and minus keys there as well. But you have also got this background colour option here. So if I select red, and look at it and think, oh, I'm not sure that's going to work actually. I need to make some changes here. I can go back in and I can keep playing around with it until I'm happy with the combination that I've got between the background colour of the fabric and the designs. You've also got a further option in this grid screen as well, which is this alignment button, and when that is selected, when you move a design, lines will appear on the screen, and this enables you and helps you to position designs in relation to each other if you're working with two different designs, for example. So these are those Photoshop type lines that I referred to earlier. So if I move this butterfly, we can see yellow lines appearing on the screen that tell me that I've got the centre of those two butterflies in line with each other, or perhaps I want to get the bottom of the wing lined up with the top of the wing on one of the other designs, and those yellow lines will appear so that I can use those to accurately position things as well. So once we're at a point where we're happy with all of the edits and the changes we've made to the designs, we're ready to go through to the stitch out, we can just press the go button in the bottom right. And this gives us a summary page, that last minute quick check that we've got all the settings in place that we want to have. And it can be tempting as you become more experienced and advanced to skip past this page, but it's always worth just having a quick check through. Once again, the Husqvarna Viking Designer Ruby 90 is doing all of the thinking for you. It's giving you that last minute checklist. So up at the top, we have the stitch plate that's been selected, and this is a good reminder for me that actually, yes, I have got the zigzag plate on the machine at the moment, and whilst it could stitch out the embroidery using the zigzag plate, actually it's better to use the straight stitch plate for the majority of embroidery. So that's a good reminder for me there to change that over. Here it's telling me which hoop I've selected, so I know that that's correct. I've got the 260 by 200 hoop on. Then we come to the colour options, and this is the sort of ordering of the colour stitching for you. So you've got the option for colour block sort. What that will do is it will allow you to stitch out, if you've got 3 blocks of yellow, for example, it will stitch out those 3 blocks together. It will stitch out the first one and stop, the second one and stop, and the third one and stop. If you want to stitch out all 3 yellow blocks together, but you don't want it to stop between each one, you can select the colour block merge button, and that will stitch out all 3 of those yellow blocks before stopping. So it's just ways to make stitching out your embroideries more efficient, quicker and easier, depending on the project that you're working on. You've also got the option for a monochrome stitch out, which just means that the machine will not stop between the different colour blocks, and it will just stitch the whole thing out in one go. So I'm going to go for the colour block sort option and deselect the monochrome option. Below that we've got basting options, so you can baste around the design, which allows you to see exactly where that design is going to be placed on the fabric without stitching the whole thing out. So if you're not quite happy with it, if you're trying to be very precise, you know, you've got the option there then when you can see it basted out on the fabric to just unpick those basting stitches and go back into your options and change the position or the placement of that design. You've got the option to baste around the hoop. And we mentioned this when we were talking about hooping the fabric earlier, that that's another way that people sometimes like to secure the fabric in the hoop, is by just basting around the edge of the hoop to keep that fabric nice and secure. It's telling us which foot we've got selected, so that's correct, we're using the sensor Q foot. It's telling me that the deluxe stitch system will be in operation, which is the thing that portions the thread and appropriately sets the tension and does all of that thinking for us. And then finally we've got thread cut options here as well. So we've got the automatic thread cutter and automatic jump stitch trim, which is great because when that is selected at the end of the design, it will cut the needle and the bobbin thread, but mid stitch out it will just cut the needle thread, so that the bobbin thread always gets picked up when the next stitches start. And this isn't always the case on all embroidery machines and can mean that sometimes stitch outs start without the bobbin thread. If we're on the auto thread cutter option instead, it won't cut those jump stitches. But this is good for things like lettering because there's lots of tie-ons and tie-offs there, so you might want to use that option then. Once you start stitching out the design, this is the screen you'll be presented with. So you've got your colour block list on the right hand side, and then underneath that you've got your design. But you might want to be able to see the design as it's being stitched out, and you've got a couple of options there. You can either minimise your colour block list, or if you want that on the screen, you can actually just pinch and zoom and move that around so that you're able to see where you are in the design stitch out. You can zoom right in if you want to, and the red cursor is there showing me exactly where we are in that stitch out. And the machine doesn't have to be static and stopped for you to be able to do that. You can do that during the stitch out. Beneath that, we've got an estimated time for the stitch out of this particular colour block, although with the Ruby Designer 90 and any of the Creativate machines, you can actually log into the Wi-Fi and you can have alerts sent to your phone letting you know that it's time to change the colour. So you might want to go and make a cup of tea, or you might be doing a particularly large stitch out and you can go and watch a bit of telly, and your phone will send you an alert to let you know it's time to go and change that colour. Beneath that, we can see the number of stitches that we've stitched so far, so 25 on this particular design, and then the numbers in brackets indicate the total number of stitches for the design and then the total number of stitches for this colour block, just so that you've got that information to hand as well. And then beneath that, we've got the jump ahead or jump back button. So if a thread breaks, for example, and you want to go back and pick up where you left off, you can jump stitch by stitch by pressing that button, or you can press and hold to jump ahead or jump back much more quickly. Now I'm going to show you one of the most advanced and impressive features of the Husqvarna Designer Ruby 90, and this feature is exclusive to PFAFF and Husqvarna machines, and it comes with the Ruby 90 when you purchase it from us. It's the ability to position designs and match designs up with such levels of precision and accuracy. You can elevate your work to a whole new level. So I'm starting with a simple geometric design. I've loaded that into the hoop, and then I've already got 3 designs stitched onto the fabric as well. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to match up the next design I stitch out with the ones already in the hoop so that they all match up perfectly. To do this, we press the flower icon at the bottom of the screen, and that takes us through to the design positioning menu. And there are tutorials built into the machine on how to do this. You've got them on Creativate as well. So again, there are so many ways that the machine supports you to do this, but it is actually really quite simple. The most important thing to remember is that the design on the screen is the one that you are about to stitch out, not the designs that you've already stitched out onto the fabric. So I'm going to go to number 1, and a blue cursor has appeared on the screen. Now I need to line that blue cursor up with somewhere on the design that I'm going to stitch out that I would like to match up with one of the designs on the fabric. So I'm going to go for this bottom point here, and I can just use my finger to drag the cursor to that point, get it as close as I think I can, and then I can use the magnifying glass here to just zoom in on that and check that I'm in the right place. Now, you can use your finger to move it around, but once you've got to that sort of point, really, it's easier to then use the arrows to nudge very precisely to the right point. So I'm just going to use those now, just to get to the point where I can see I'm sitting over that point accurately on the design. And I can see that I've got that pretty spot on now. I am over that point on the design, so I'm going to zoom back out so that I can see it in the hoop. And then we're going to go to step 2, Now for step 2, when I touch the screen, the hoop will move and the fabric will obviously move. And what I need to do is I'm going to use the screen to control where the needle ends up so that I can drop the needle and check that I am matching up at the right points. So I want this design to be above the design that's on the right hand side. So I'm just going to move that now. So as I'm moving it, I'm thinking, where do I want the design on the screen to be? The one that I'm about to stitch out. And we want it to match up with the point at the top of the design on the fabric. So I think I'm sort of getting close there. I'm not quite spot on. So again, I'm just going to use my arrows now to nudge. And get to the right place. So again, I'm still a bit low there. And you can see how tiny, tiny, tiny these movements are so that I can get absolute precision and accuracy with it. And one caveat I will mention here is that I've got 2 cameras set up. So I've got to be careful not to obscure the view of those cameras. But if I was doing this not on camera, I would have my head over the top of the hoop, over the fabric, and I would be able to see incredibly accurately whether I'm matching everything up. But I'm trying to do it from a bit of a distance. So if there are any anomalies, it's because I can't quite get close enough. I'm actually quite far away. But to be honest, the last few times I've done this, it's worked out perfectly, despite the fact that I'm quite a distance from the design. So just fine tuning now, getting to the point where I'm really happy. I think we just need to go across a little bit more and a bit more again. Right, I am very, very happy with that now. So I've lined that point up. I can now go to number 3. A second cursor has appeared on the screen, and now I can choose to line another point on the design up. I could go for the one next to the one we've just done, or because I'm joining it here as well, I can match it up with another point on the other design. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Again, just get that cursor into the right place or into the right ballpark. And it's amazing when you zoom in how you see that what looks like you're over the point, you're not actually. So it's great having this ability to zoom in and really test that. And then I think that's about right. So I'm going to go to number 4. And if I drop the needle now, I can see that I'm going to join up with that design there. If I'm not happy with it, I have got the ability to rotate it so that it's correct, but I'm happy with that. So I'm going to click the tick button and I'm going to press the start button and stitch the design out. And there's our congratulatory sound to say our embroidery is finished, and we can see what an incredible job the machine has done of lining those designs up. The accuracy is so good, and this will elevate your projects to a whole new level. All of those designs on that fabric have been created and stitched together using this design positioning facility, and it just is absolutely wonderful. Now the next feature I'm going to show you on the Ruby 90 is one of my absolute favourites. It's design shaping, which allows you to create unique embroidery designs by arranging built-in stitches or designs along custom shapes or lines, and you don't need any software to be able to do this. It is all built into the machine when you purchase it from us. So I'm going to go to the menu at the top, and if you go to the N menu, stitch menu, these are your small designs, and this is what you use for that design shaping. So I'm going to select that lovely purple flower, and then I'm also going to select this lovely orange and pink flower. So I've got two designs in my hoop now. The machine has automatically set the hoop size to 80 by 80 because obviously it thinks I'm working with these small designs. So let's just change that to our bigger hoop size. And then we also want to select both of the designs. Currently only one of them is selected, but to do that, we've talked about this earlier in the video, we can just go to our layers and select all of the designs like so, then minimize that. Next, we need to choose our shape. So we go to the design shaping icon at the bottom here. It's a star with a circle. And then if we touch the star at the top of the screen, we get our shape menu. And you can see we've got a wide range of shapes that we can choose from here. Circles, flowers, hearts, hexagons, squares, waves, stars, all sorts of things. I'm going to choose a heart and just minimize that screen. And you can see it's put both of those designs onto the heart for me. Now, the aim of the game now is to fill that heart up with the design. So what we need to do first of all is just come to this toggle button here and tell the machine we're working with two designs. And when we do that, if we press the plus button to increase the number of designs, it will alternate which design it adds next. So it's balanced and it's taking it in turns, making sure that it's balancing out those designs. If you want to speed things up, you can just type in the number of designs you want to add, and then you can fine tune things from here. So you can see I've filled that heart shape up now, but I've got a purple flower at the bottom at the point of the heart and a purple flower at the centre at the top. And I might think, well, that doesn't look particularly balanced to me. I'd like to play around with that. And that's when I can come back to these plus and minus buttons here. So I've added another one, and actually that looks a bit worse. We've now got two at the bottom and one at the top. That doesn't look very balanced. I'm going to go again. And there we have a lovely balanced design. We've got an orange flower at the top, a purple one at the bottom. It looks lovely and symmetrical. I'm really happy with how that looks. And that would be how I would choose to stitch it out now. But I just want to show you another feature as well while we're here. If you touch that button, you have a choice where you want to place those designs. So currently they're centered on the line. The heart shape is running through the centre of those designs, but we can choose to place them above the line. So in the case of the heart that we're working on, that would be on the outside of the heart, or we can place them below the line, and in the case of the heart, that is inside the heart. I think we probably would all agree that centred on the line is the best option there. But you can see how you can really customise things, get so creative and design your own outcomes. You know, you can choose exactly what you want to create. It's just such a wonderful feature. Now, there are even more ways to customise things with your design shaping, but it's better to show you these on designs that are directional. Our flowers were symmetrical. But if I choose a leaf and another leaf, which are a directional design rather than a symmetrical one, again, it thinks we're working with the smallest hoop, so let's just change that to the one that we've been working with. And let's select our layers and select all again. And then go to our design shaping option. And we'll go with the heart for consistency, just so you can see what I mean. We can do the same thing again. We can select the toggle button to tell the machine we're working with two designs. And then if I type in 20, just to get us started, you can see there that it's covered the heart with those designs, and I can mess around again with the number of designs until I'm happy. But the thing really I want to show you here is this, which is the rotation option. So currently none of the designs are rotated at all, so we can just see that our dark green leaves are facing out and our light green leaves are also pointing out to the outside of the heart. However, we can rotate them 90 degrees so that they are now all pointing in that direction and following the heart round. We can rotate them to 180 degrees, so now they're all pointing inside the heart, or we can rotate them in the other direction, so the direction going round the heart is left, it goes left first. So you've got that option there to play around with, and then you've also got this option here, which if I select that, all of the designs will point in the same direction, and they will all point in the same direction, so they're all pointing that way. I can deselect that, and again they're following the way around the heart. So you can just see the options that you've got there again to customize these designs and make them your own. Everything I've shown you on the Ruby 90 so far is available on the machine when you purchase it from us. So 650 embroidery designs, the design shaping, the design positioning, and so much more. But it's also fully compatible with the live Creativate platform, which, depending on the level of subscription you opt for, can give you access to a further 9,500 embroidery designs at the last count. That's constantly changing, plus tutorials, projects and software as well. When you purchase the machine from us, you get access to a free basic package of Creativate, which gives you limited access to designs and some content. Then you have the option to pay for a monthly subscription, which will give you full access to the full design catalogue, plus more advanced software options such as digitising, sketching, cross-stitch, sashing and borders, and even more projects and tutorials. The Creativate subscription packages are entirely optional, and with the incredible amount of designs and features built into the machine, you might not feel the need for it, but it's just nice to know that there is a whole other world of creativity there ready for you to access if you ever want to. Subscriptions start from as little as £7.50 a month, with a maximum of £30 a month at the time of recording, and you can also benefit from discounts when you purchase your subscription through us too. The Creativate platform really does make the Ruby 90 a machine for life. You will never run out of ideas, inspiration, projects or tutorials and opportunities to learn and develop your skills. So how does Creativate work? Well, the first thing you do is register on the Creativate website for an account, then log into the Wi-Fi and your Creativate account on your Ruby. And during the course of the video, we've been using the embroidery designs in this menu with the light pink background on the flower. Next to that, you'll notice another menu with a dark pink background. Once you're logged in, that will display the designs that are available to you on your Creativate subscription level, whichever one that is. So I'm just going to make the screen a bit larger there, and you can see there are lots and lots of designs there loading for me to scroll through. I've got the option at the top to search for specific themes, so I've actually searched for a summer theme and it's bringing up all the designs in that library. I've got full access, so out of those 9,500 designs, it's picking out the ones that are most relevant for a summer theme. And I've also got the option to select the width and height of the design so that I can search by that as well. You can also link up the embroidery machine, your laptop or PC, and even your mobile phone. So the fact you can sign in on several devices makes it really easy to browse designs, tutorials, make edits, and it's all linked together. So for example, I'm on my PC here and I might want to have a look around at some projects and embroidery designs and just get some ideas, perhaps while I'm sat in the evening watching my favourite TV programmes. I can just have a little scroll through on my laptop and have a look, and I'm just scrolling through this now to give you an idea of the different sorts of projects and inspiration and ideas that you'll find. So many lovely things to choose from, not just embroideries but lots of craft related projects as well, and just sewing projects and all sorts of things. Like I say, you are never ever going to run out of ideas or get bored with this platform to link into. It's just absolutely brilliant. You'll notice labels on the designs. The ones that say premium, they're only accessible with the subscription. The ones that say free, they will come with that basic package that we were talking about. But there's lots of different ways to navigate around the site. I'm just showing you now just some of the key places you might want to go to, and just so that you can get a glimpse of what sort of projects and ideas and things there are here, so that you can really get the most out of your machine and you never ever run out of ideas or opportunities to learn and develop new skills. One of my favourite projects is at the bottom of this page. I just absolutely love the cutwork collection. That's one of my favourites right there, and you can do that on the Ruby 90. It's so beautiful. And then if we go into explore collections there, I can then go into these by purely projects, which I've got here. So you've got, again, lots and lots of different crafty projects, embroidery projects, sewing projects, all sorts of different things there. But then if we go back up to the top, I want to show you how I can send a design from my PC or laptop or phone over to the Ruby 90. So I'm just going to go to embroideries here because I've got full access on my subscription. I currently have access to 9,663 embroidery designs. It's just crazy how much you can get on here. And I'm going to just type in something into the search. I'm going to go for a summer themed embroidery design. So it's brought up lots of ideas here for me, which I can scroll through and have a look at. But actually I really like that ice lolly one that has come up straight away. It's lovely and colourful, just right up my street. So if I go into that design, I can then hit this paper aeroplane icon and I can send that design to the Ruby 90. And I've just heard my machine, my Ruby 90, beep in the background to tell me that that design has just reached my machine. And now I come across to the Ruby 90 and we can see, as if by magic, that design has been transferred wirelessly to the embroidery machine, and it is there ready for me whenever I'm ready to start sewing again. So I can sit and browse in the evening, send it to my machine, ready for when I'm ready to start stitching out again the next day. It's also sometimes easier to play around with the software on your laptop than on the embroidery machine as well, particularly if you're using some of the features in the higher level subscription and you're doing things like digitizing. And you know, you can sit and do that on your laptop or your PC again, and then you can transfer it back to your machine very, very easily. And you also get access to the vault with 100 MB of storage from your machine or your laptop too. But now we've got the design on the machine, I just want to show you that you can also save it as well. So we can go to the heart at the bottom there, and I can choose to give it a name that I'm going to remember. So I might want to just call it summer, and I can type that in, press the green tick, and that has now saved that design to my machine as well. So I can just go into the little grey folder at the top there, and I would be able to scroll through those designs and find the one called summer. And I've got quite a lot of designs on here, but there we go. We can see I've got that file saved there to the machine as well now. Now, the other great thing about this connectivity is that I can sign into the Creativate app on my phone, and then the machine can send alerts to my phone to let me know what's happening in a stitch out. So if I need to change the thread colour, or if the bobbin thread breaks, or any other issues, it will send an alert to my phone, giving me the freedom to go and do something else whilst that embroidery is being stitched out. To do this, I go into the Creativate app on my phone, select Embroidery, then I go to Monitor, select the machine that I'm working on, and then the design will be uploaded and the stitch out information will be uploaded. You can see there you've got all the different thread colours, all the different number of stitches are listed, and then the machine will send an alert to my phone when I need to go and change the thread colour, and it just means you can get on with other things. If you're working on a particularly big design, you don't want to wait for that to be stitched out, you've got that freedom to go and do other things, but you'll know as soon as it's time to change that thread colour. This connectivity also means you have a range of options for transferring embroidery designs from elsewhere to your Ruby too. So you might have purchased an embroidery design, for example, or have one stored somewhere on your PC. You've got the traditional method for this, so there are 2 USB ports on the Ruby and you can use those, but you can also use the Windows File Explorer plugin to send designs to the cloud, which is your online storage, your laptop or PC, and the Ruby embroidery machine itself. I'm on my PC now and I've got the free Creativate File Explorer plugin installed. So I can go up here to my embroidery designs folder, and the nice thing is all of my embroidery designs are displayed as images rather than text, so that makes it really easy for browsing and choosing the different designs. And then if I click on one of them, on the right hand side of the screen it will give me information such as the dimensions, the stitch count, the number of colours. And I can also send a design wirelessly to my Ruby or any Creativate compatible machine. To do that, I just need to right click on the design, go to show more options, go to my Sonnet, which is the previous name for Creativate, click on send, and then I've got the option to send to the cloud, which is my online storage, the vault with 100 megabytes that we mentioned earlier, or I can send express to my Sonnet device. If I check that box, I can then select the designer Ruby 90, click on send, and we can see here the design was sent to the machine. So let's just have a look at the machine now. As you can see, it's appeared on the screen and it's there ready for you to use. Exploring all the possibilities of Creativate would be multiple videos in itself, but hopefully today I've given you a good feel for the endless creative opportunities you can access and how it can make life so much easier when it comes to transferring designs and tracking your stitch outs, either on the Ruby 90 or any of the other Creativate enabled embroidery machines we stock. We do stock a wide range of Husqvarna embroidery machines on our site. And don't forget, if you are interested in a subscription, even if you already have a machine, we can get that at a discounted price for you. So don't hesitate to get in contact with any questions. In the box, you'll find everything you would expect: the embroidery arm, the 3 hoops, 13 feet, including the interchangeable dual feed foot, the sensor cue foot, and a range of other specialist and standard feet, the fancy screwdriver, some spare bobbins, spool caps. Then, if you want to take your sewing even further, there are a wide range of feet and accessories available to buy separately for the machine too. So you might want to try something like the ribbon embroidery attachments, and you can even access the ribbon embroidery attachment designs free of charge on the basic level of the Creativate platform. I'll pop a link in the corner of the screen so you can take a look at the Husqvarna feet and accessories on our site and purchase them there. And if you need any help choosing, don't hesitate to ask. That is what we're here for. I've given you a good overview of some of the capabilities of the Husqvarna Viking Designer Ruby 90, but if I've left any of your questions unanswered, don't hesitate to get in contact. All of our machines come with a full manufacturer's warranty, so that's 5 years for parts and 2 years for labour. In the unlikely event that you have an issue, don't hesitate to get in contact. Most of the time we can resolve any issues over the phone, but if that's not the case, we'll collect the machine and do everything for you. We offer the best prices, but if you do see this machine cheaper anywhere else, don't hesitate to contact us and we'll be very happy to help. Your machine will be delivered free of charge by courier the next working day with a dedicated time slot so you know exactly when that happy post is going to arrive. I hope you're feeling super excited about your new machine, and thanks for watching.